We all know Gandalf, Aragorn, Sauron, Frodo, Elrond, and all the popular characters of the Tolkien universe. But what if I told you that these are only the tip of the iceberg and there are so many more incredibly powerful and amazing characters and beings in the same universe that their feats are incomparable, and yet, even some of the most loyal Tolkien fans know nothing about them. Welcome back to another video, fellas, and today I will give you my picks for 5 of the most underappreciated and unsung heroes in the Tolkien universe. So without any further delay, are you ready? Let's get started! Number 5. Glorfindel. This is one that almost made it to the spotlight, but instead he was replaced by Arwen in the movies. Glorfindel is one of the mightiest elves left out of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. Wanting to elevate the position of Arwen and her romantic subplot with Aragorn, Arwen was brought in to perform certain scenes originally played out by Glorfindel in the novel. A capable fighter with golden hair, Glorfindel's angelic presence caused the Nazgûl to flee from him multiple times. His healing abilities saved Frodo's life after he was stabbed by those same Black Riders. It was Glorfindel who guided Frodo and the hobbits to Rivendell and also sat in a position of honor with Elrond during the discussion over what to do with the ring. Glorfindel was also the major reason why the Witch King of Angmar was defeated. He took part in the Battle of Fornos to drive off the Witch King, and after the battle was over, told them not to pursue him, predicting that no mortal man would ever destroy the Witch King and prophesying his death. That's right, do you remember the Witch King saying,
"You fool, no man can kill me"?
Yep, it was Glorfindel who prophesied it. Moving on, number 4, Ecthelion. If your goal is to kill orcs, Ecthelion of the House of Fountain is your guy. He killed more orcs during the fall of Gondolin than anyone in the history of Middle-earth. More than Fanor, more than Fingolfin. And remember those names, they will come up later. Had it not been for Ecthelion, Tuor, the great hero of men, would have been slain. And now here is the mind-blowing fact about Ecthelion. Not only did he save Tuor's life, he slew Gothmog, not him. The Gothmog I'm talking about is the second most powerful lieutenant who was immensely powerful and also just happened to be the leader of the Balrogs. To make it clear, do you remember this guy? The Balrog that Gandalf gave his life to defeat? Also known as Durin's Bane? Well, this Balrog was one of a huge army of Balrogs, and that army had a general. Let's say the mightiest of all the Balrogs. That was Gothmog, and Ecthelion slew him, even though he subsequently lost his life as a result of his heroic deed. Number 3. Fanor. Okay, probably one of the most infamous elves Tolkien ever created. In fact, it is stated that Fanor may in fact be the greatest elf ever lived. But he does not top this list because he had some flaws in his character. Now this freaking guy, he was the greatest of the children of Ilúvatar, that is, the god of the Middle-earth. Fanor was the most beautiful, the most knowledgeable, the most skilled smith, and he could basically convince other incredibly smart people to literally leave heaven. This actually happened, and here's why. Fanor created the Silmarils. The Silmarils were the most prized and magnificent jewels of the first age of Middle-earth. And then Melkor, aka Morgoth, the most powerful evil entity ever, stole the Silmarils. Fanor obviously wanted revenge and his jewels back. Problem was, despite being blessed with great gifts, Fanor was also rigged with flaws, like selfishness and pride, which eventually led to great anguish for his people. But if you want to learn more about him, I suggest you to read the Silmarillion. It is a great book. Anyway, back to the question, not only was Fanor a great fighter, he could also recruit you an army just using his words, and equip them with the best weapons that he himself created. You simply did not mess with him. Number 2, Arendelle. He was a half-man and half-elf that was eventually blessed to live as an elf. Arendelle was destined to be a savior. And even though his life is full of tragedy, he is immensely powerful and the lone reason why the forces of Valar were able to beat the armies of Morgoth. So, let me explain it in simple words. Arendelle was basically sick and tired of the chaotic situation in Middle-earth, and he, alongside his wife Elwing, sailed to find Valinor. They essentially sailed to find heaven, and guess what? They did. Problem is, if a mortal was ever to set foot on Valinor, the punishment was death. However, Arendelle did not seek Valinor for personal gain or out of selfishness. He desperately wanted to ask the help of the Valar, that would aid the men and elves in Middle-earth in the fight against the Dark Lord Morgoth. and the Valar accepted his plea due to the nobleness of Arendelle's purpose. The Valar also gave Arendelle, his wife, the choice to choose which race they would rather join, and even though Arendelle would rather be one of the men, he chose the elves for the sake of his wife, who also chose the elves. But wait! This was not the greatest feat of Arendelle. There is actually more. After the Valar agreed to help in the battle against Morgoth, they went back together in Middle-earth and fought in the War of the Wrath, where Morgoth was defeated for good. So what did Arendelle accomplish there? He slew freaking Angalagon the Black, the mightiest of the dragon host, the greatest dragon ever. To give you an example, it is stated that when compared to Smaug, Smaug would actually look like a lizard. Angalagon was so big that he could touch the peak of 3 different mountains. He was basically titanic in size and power. And when Arendelle defeated him, the mighty dragon fell from the sky and broke the freaking mountains. That is Thangorondrim, the 3 active volcanoes and fortress of the Dark Lord Morgoth. And the dragon's fall literally broke those volcanoes. I hope you now understand his actual size. And yes, that was a dragon that Arendelle managed to slay. Arendelle is what we call a true badass. Number 1. Fingolfin. Do you remember Fanor? The greatest elf ever lived, etc, etc? Well, Fingolfin is his younger brother. And in my opinion, one of the most badass elves ever. Although Fanor was more learned, Fingolfin was the strongest and most valiant of the children of Eru Ilúvatar. And now, let's put into perspective what Fingolfin did and why he deserves a high praise and this spot on this list. So, you know that before Sauron, there was Morgoth. Morgoth was essentially the Satan of Middle-earth, the most powerful evil being to ever exist in Tolkien's universe. Morgoth was so terrifying that he could literally influence and turn elves into his spies just by looking into their freaking eyes. Morgoth, also known as Melkor, was so powerful that he had dominion over most of Beleriand, while he was fighting all the other Valar combined. Morgoth is stated to be the second most powerful being in Tolkien's universe, after only Eru Ilúvatar himself, who is essentially the god, the one above all else. So you get how powerful Morgoth was. And so, what did Fingolfin did that makes him such a legend? Well, during the Dagor Bragolach, aka the Battle of Sand and Flame, the Noldor elves were defeated on all fronts and pushed back. With so many losses, Fingolfin attempted a feat which stamps his name as the baddest living thing to ever have existed. He rode up to the gates of Angband, the fortress of Morgoth. In other words, literally hell. And what did he do? He challenged Morgoth to a duel, the second most powerful deity in the world, besides Eru Ilúvatar himself. Like I said, Morgoth was so powerful that after a while, he just stopped using chains on his slaves, because they were literally terrified of his glance. He could look and command fear without saying a word or doing a thing. And yet, not only Fingolfin was not affected by the almighty power of Morgoth, but he even challenged him to a duel, and on top of that, he cursed Morgoth and called him a coward, in front of Morgoth's hell, while he was alone. Just to give you a comparison, Fingolfin basically walked up straight to hell and challenged Satan to a duel. I simply can't think of a more courageous act in the history of Middle-earth. Fingolfin, an elf, dare challenge the baddest entity of Middle-earth's universe. And not only that, but he also gave Morgoth quite a fight, before he eventually perished. Many times Morgoth tried to smite Fingolfin with his mighty grunt, and every time Fingolfin leaped away. Fingolfin gave Morgoth 7 wounds, and 7 times Morgoth gave a cry of anguish that echoed all over his dominion. And even though Morgoth won the duel after all, the pain of the wounds that Fingolfin inflicted on him would never go away. And that's it, fellas. Thank you for watching. If you have not read the Silmarillion or other of Tolkien's books about the early ages of Middle-earth, then I suggest you to go and do that now, because the tales hidden inside are impeccable. This is my list of certain individuals in Tolkien's lore that I believe deserve higher recognition, for what they did and for their deeds in general. If you found this video interesting and want to see more videos like this, make sure to smash like and subscribe. Until the next one, have an amazing time and I'll see you all later. Congratulations to Text the Kid, who found the correct answer during my live stream, And so he gets his name featured in this video.